All right. Peace and greetings, YouTubers. So, the Usher Super Bowl halftime show. Now, normally, I don't even really review the halftime show. However, I had a few extra minutes today, so I said, you know what? Let me utilize this time and get a video out. Overall, I enjoyed the show. I think with Usher, what I've appreciated with somebody like an Usher is that Usher is somebody that's been out since, what, 93? You know, 30 plus years. And a lot of times when you see artists who have been in the business for as long as 30 years plus, right? Usually when they hit that 15, close to 20-year mark, they start to get real relaxed and comfortable, right? And it starts to be a very going with the motions and let me just do a greatest hits tour and call it a day. But I've always felt that Usher's somebody who continued to work on his craft throughout the years because he's still hungry for it, right? There's some entertainers who, like I said, they reach a certain threshold of success and then they just go out there and do the bare minimum and just be happy I'm still here because look at all these hits I had in the past. Y'all need to just be happy I'm giving y'all a show. And then you have other entertainers who, 20, 30, even 40 years into their career, they're still trying to push the envelope for themselves. They're still trying to raise their own bar. So that's always been something that made me appreciate Usher. So I was excited to see that he would be one of the halftime performers. And so as far as the show, like I said, I thought it was great. Is it my absolute favorite of all time? No, but I will say this. I've seen a lot of people who were pretty much bashing the show. They didn't like it. They didn't think it was good. And I'm kind of like, all right. Now, some of y'all are really stretching and reaching here, okay? This is kind of like elementary school when you had to do the presidential fitness test and you did that sit and reach with the chair. And I could never do it because I wasn't flexible. So I always had like a -7 with the stretch. But yeah, some of y'all are really reaching and stretching here because I do not agree with the idea that this was not a good show. I don't think it was the best of the best of the best. I think there are some things that could have been maybe done a bit differently, but overall, I still thought it was a great show. I thought the overall package was an excellent show. For me personally, I think it would still be in my top 10 of favorite shows that I've seen. I'm not going to name who any of them are, but I have my top 10. I think he'd be somewhere in there, maybe at about like number 8 or number 9, right? And so let me name the things that I thought worked, and then maybe we'll talk about some of the things that I think could have been enhanced. But like I said, I like the show. I think this was a gift and a curse, and I would say the set list, right? I think the good thing about the set list was that he really tried to capture a 30-year career in those 15 minutes, right? Really try to give you a bit of most of his eras. And so the show opens with what My Way. There's also Caught Up. There's You Don't Have to Call. There's Superstar. Love in His Club, My Boo, Confessions, Nice and Slow, Burn, You Got It Bad, Bad Girl, OMG, Yeah, and then you also had If I Ain't Got You from Alicia Keys, which was sprinkled in there. You also had Turn Down for What. So you did get this really great mix of music that was there. So you got a little bit of the R&B hits as far as the smooth, crooner, mid-tempo R&B slow jams. You got the big dance numbers like Yeah. You got the more almost EDM sound that was really popular in 2010, 2011 with the OMG. You got a bit of everything, right? And so I thought the set list in that aspect, as far as trying to give a bit of everything, was a highlight. I'm going to come back to the set list towards the end with a different opinion. And I also really like the musicality of the show. I felt that this was a show that really centered on the musicality and how the music was presented. Everything from how the band was going to do the arrangements, how they were going to have these different transitions, and how you kept seeing these moments where they would almost stop the major, huge, big production to just focus on what was happening with the music. And you saw him kind of paying homage to different things. So you heard the elements of the Jacksons in there, right? In some of the music when he was skating. And you could see the homage, right, to Marvin Gaye with even the whatever else he was doing, right? The real Marvin Gaye-esque thing. So there was these different elements that you could capture. And the fact that, again, when people think of a Super Bowl halftime show, they think of all the big stadium anthems and the big dance numbers, but he kept slowing it down and said, no, we're going to focus and we're going to sit with a little bit of You Got It Bad and some Confessions and Burn. And nobody would have thought Superstar was in it. I can tell you right now, half that crowd has not heard the song Superstar. Minus the big R&B fans, right? So just giving space to those songs and letting them breathe for that half a second that they were performed, right? And so I thought that was the thing. And I think maybe one of the reasons why some people didn't connect is the Super Bowl is all about the visual production in your face. Just big, boom, boom. I think the emphasis and the energy for this show went to the musicality, to showcase and highlight pretty much Usher as an artist and as a vocalist and how the band was going to arrange their things. I think that's really the driving force behind this show. And so I think for people who want more of the big pyrotechnics and the lasers and everything else in the stage to form into a transformer piece and go like this and the stage elevates and comes down, and, all of that kind of stuff, then yeah, some people are probably like, it feels a little watered down. But I don't know. I think it's to each his own. Because I will say, even one of my favorite performances as well. Another one that sits in that top 10. I really enjoyed 2016, the Coldplay, Bruno, and Beyonce piece. And even with that one, that was a very watered down stage, right? And it was daylight. They didn't even have the night sky to back them up. They were on their own out there just exposed in the sun. And I still think that was a very high energy, very entertaining show. So I guess it depends on what people are into. Another aspect I liked, of course, I liked a lot of the guest appearances. You had Alicia Keys. Yes, we know she missed that first note, but the way things are set up, by the time the NFL uploads the overdubbed version, you won't even hear that bad note. But other than that note, I enjoyed Alicia. I thought she looked great. That red really suits her well. I thought it was cool how the piano had that red cape, and as soon as the song ended, the cape and everything. Loved all of that. Her, I thought was excellent. Great guitar solo. Great way for Usher to go and change while, she works the crowd. I thought her looked really, really good. And again, very, very talented. I feel like we haven't seen her in a while, so it was good to see her. So she did her thing. You have Lil Jon, Ludacris. Look, the minute I saw JD come out, I said the rest of Atlanta is about to be in this show. As soon as JD, because I think he was the first of the rappers and everybody to show up, I was like, yeah, all of Atlanta is about to be on the stage in a minute. So you get JD, who's going to do his JD thing. You get Lil Jon, who, it's another segment where I think this is when Usher, was taking the skates off, right? And they do the turn down for what? Get the crowd all hype and everything while everything else is happening. Ludacris, of course, is always going to be really fun to watch. I told y'all when I went to the Janet show, he was the opener. And oddly enough, it was a lit opening set. Ludacris was a lot of fun to watch, right? will.i.am, who we have not seen in forever. I was like, okay, cool for will.i.am. I don't feel like I've seen him since like 2010, 2011, Black Eyed Peas days, if we're being honest. And so, yeah, he had a bunch of different people. So if you're somebody who was not living on the internet and you had no idea about what was going to happen in the show, you may have been pleasantly surprised to see all these different people, or you might have been like, who are these people? Either way, but, I thought it was great. The choreography I enjoy. Usher's always going to be a great dancer. Usher has this very smooth essence to how he dances. I always say when it comes to dancing, there is trained and there is skilled. And with Usher, to me, Usher's always just been skilled. He's just always just naturally had it. Yes, he can go and train and everything else, but trained and skilled always shows you the discrepancy or the delineation between people who are natural dancers and people who have to go through years and years of training. Usher just naturally has it, right? He's going to be Mr. Smooth. That's his approach, in my opinion. When it comes to dancing, he's never going to do the super, super hard-hitting stick and move choreography. It's always going to be really smooth. He's going to hit his marks, but he's going to be smooth with it. And so we got a lot of that, right? And I thought it was really dope that they had the skating, right? He's been doing that in the Vegas residency as well, and I'm sure that will also be incorporated with the current tour that he just announced. And man, look, I was trying to get tickets for the DC show. I saw them prices. I said, okay, dang, because it was like the scalpers got all the tickets. It's nothing but resale for DC. I'm like, dang, man, I just got the tickets just opened 10 minutes ago. Ain't nothing. Like, Lord, $300 to be in the 400 section bumping your head on the roof. So I don't know if I'll be seeing him in DC. I might have to go to a different city to get like 5 dates. Anyway, but I will say at this point, I feel like everything under the sun has happened and taken place at halftime, right? You've had Diana Ross make her exit with the helicopter. You had Lady Gaga jump. I don't know where she jumped to, but somehow she did this big old jump that looked like she jumped off the stadium, and somehow she ended up on the stage, right? Rihanna was pregnant, and they raised her up 500 feet and had her do her whole show in the sky. Right? Who else am I? I'm skipping so many people. But everything you can think of under the sun has happened. The Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige said they had a whole movie set for the stage. The Weeknd, it was like you were watching a maze. You didn't even know where the stage was or how the stage worked. It was just a whole lot of stuff. So, Katy Perry has sharks moving, right? Everything you can think of has happened at the Super Bowl. And I think each year it gets harder and harder to try to top that. So the idea of bringing skates and choreographing the skate routine, I thought was really, really cool, even though he was doing that before the Super Bowl. So I enjoyed that. The idea of just doing something different, right? I thought the costumes were cool. I thought his best fit was that blue and black one. That looked really cool. That was really fun because you knew it was time to dance, right? Another highlight was that the mic was on. Now, some artists, when it comes to the Super Bowl, they lip the entire thing, right? So they can focus on the dancing and the production and everything else because there's that idea of just wanting to have the most perfect show where nothing can go wrong. So nobody's flat, nobody's pitchy, everything sounds crisp and perfect. You have some entertainers that do the mix where some is live and then they also have the pre-recorded vocal for, when they're doing the bigger dance numbers and everything else like that. And so you get a mix of both. Usher is somebody who really has never really been one to lip sync. He's always sang live. And I think he's gotten better as a live singer over the years. Because I remember back in like 2012, 13, 14, y'all used to cook him because he would do these award shows with the mic on and he'd still be trying to spin on his head and be out of breath and winded and everything. But I do feel like he's gotten a lot better singing live all the way through, especially at these big events. But I will say the con that takes place when you are 100% live during your halftime shows. One, it's a stadium, the acoustics and everything are going to do what they do. Sometimes you can't hear the earpiece. Sometimes the mics are acting weird. So there were some moments where the sound was up and down, right? I don't think everybody could always hear themselves sometimes. But again, to me, I think that's a highlight, and that's a very bold approach, right? That means that, again, as a performer, you're that confident in what it is you can do. Because I will say this as well. The thing, too, there are some performers who, if the power were to go out during the middle of their show, they wouldn't know what to do. And there are others where if the power were to go out in the middle of their show, they'd still be able to function and be just fine. I think Usher is one of those people. He'd be just fine. So, it kind of just goes to show that, again, that idea of continuing to work on your craft, continuing to enhance and work at what it is you do. All right, so, I thought that was dope. Now, if there were some things I may have approached differently if I were in Usher's shoes or if I were on his team, I think the production value of the show I would have reapproached. And I say that because I think there was so much happening, right? Going back to like the music and just how big the music was and how the emphasis was on the music and how much effort went into getting that. I think if the production value would have matched the efforts with the music, more people would have received it better. And really, I think the biggest thing that could have happened was a different stage. Because even when it was the opening and he had come down and it was, like I said, it was the Vegas girls doing their thing and the pole dancers and somebody got shot across the thing. It was like you almost missed half of it because there was just, you didn't really see the full stage. And I think the camera angles weren't the best until the very end. They needed more pan out shots. Too many shots that were up too close and you were missing a lot of what was happening around him. Because I'm sure for people who were in the stadium, they saw a very different show than what a lot of us watching from home got to see, right? So I would have definitely kind of enhanced the stage bit. Like I said, maybe a different stage that had layers to it so it could really capture everything he was doing. I think that would have helped a little bit. The stage he had was cool, but I will say in comparison to a lot of the previous years where the stages have become more and more and more elaborate, I think people who keep wanting the bar to get higher with the actual production value, they wanted a bit more. But it goes back to what I was saying where, again, Usher is an entertainer that can do both the best of both worlds, right? If the power goes out, he'll be fine. But at the same time, I think he is in a caliber of entertainers that can either give you a really, really big production, and then because he's already talented as a performer, it's just going to enhance, or he can strip it way down and just give you a raw show. Like, I feel like of those entertainers, he's one of those entertainers. Beyonce's one of those entertainers. Janet's shows in modern times are a little bit more stripped down, but back in the day, you remember she used to have Ferris wheels and moons and all kind of stuff and slides and stuff on the stage. Sometimes depending on her mood now, you get a PowerPoint and some sweatpants, and she's still gonna give you a good show. You get Escapade and Rhythm Nation in the same outfit, right? She's up and coming, but I think Victoria Monet, if given the budget, is going to be an artist that is in best of both worlds, where she can do the really huge production or she can give you a really raw show that's entertaining, right? I'm skipping a lot of people. Tina Turner, one of those best of both worlds. I throw the Lady Gaga in there, best of both worlds. Pink, I throw in there, best of both worlds. Like, you have these entertainers that can do both. They can work a huge giant stage, or they can work a stage that doesn't have a whole lot and still be entertaining. And I think for Usher, I think people wanted the big, because I don't even think there was pyro. There was no there was no explosions, right? Because even the way that the show ended, I was like, is there more? Because, they was on stage bouncing, so I thought they were getting ready to transition into the next song. And then I heard the voiceover lady saying, "Thank you all for watching." I said, that was it? There wasn't the when the lights go out? No, just none of that? Oh, okay. So yeah, there was no pyro, there was no water, there was no lasers, there was no fog, there was no, there was no, what else, holograms. He ain't had none of that. He said, y'all gonna get this show the way I gave it to y'all. So, I think the production might, if it would have shifted, it would have made the show even better, right? But I still think it was still a great everything, right? And again, I think people forget Usher's also 45, which again, I think is dope to be 45 and still put this kind of energy into a show, right? This could have definitely been a greatest hits reunion special, and it wasn't, right? Usher still moves like he's in his 20s. To me, Usher has this essence of an ageless entertainer. Yes, we know he's older, he's seasoned, but he's still giving it to everybody like he's still in his, well, I would consider him still in his physical prime. So yeah, definitely killing that, right? Now, going back to the set list, if there was anything I would have changed, as much as I love that he had 13 songs in the set list plus the additional 2 that I mentioned, I think this show would have worked a lot better if they would have just done 7 or 8 songs. And I only say that because since he was trying to get in as many songs as possible, sometimes you only got a piece of a song, right? Right when he was getting ready to go into Superstar, it switched. I said, well, damn, okay. Right when he was getting ready to go into You Got It Bad and some of the other one, it would switch. I'm like, what? Right? So I think that's the only thing. I get wanting to give the audience everything, but sometimes I think when you just have 6, 7, 8 songs in that 15 minutes, you can really work those songs, right? You can really work and polish and give people enough. And I think because we kept getting taken on a journey, and it's kind of like, you know, it's almost like if you've ever taken like a train or Amtrak, especially on the East Coast. I don't know. I always do the DC to New York trip because I don't like driving up there because I'm not tearing up the shocks of my car driving to New York. But you can either take like that accelerated route that just goes straight from DC to New York and you have a great time, or you can take that route where they're going to stop in New Carrollton, then they're going to stop in Baltimore, then they're going to stop in Delaware, then they're going to stop like 3 stops in Jersey, there's a stop in Philly, and it's like by the time you get to New York, you're like, dang man, how many times are we going to keep stopping? I felt like sometimes with the transitions with the songs, because they transitioned so quickly, you couldn't even enjoy the song before they got to the next one, right? And so I would have restructured it. I would have taken maybe 3 or 4 songs out. I would have canceled Alicia's Singing If I Ain't Got You. As much as I love that song, they would have just went straight to My Boo, right? I get that Lil Jon had to turn down for what, so Usher could change. I probably would have either continued whatever song that Usher was already singing and just have the background singers carry that song while Usher changes. Because I just think sometimes switching from song to song to song to song to song, sometimes it's too much. I think for a lot of entertainers that have these really massive careers and they go on these tours, people sometimes don't like the medleys, right? Because sometimes you stuff too many songs in a medley and you zip through too quickly and you feel like you missed out. But overall, that would be the only major change that I would throw. But overall, I think it was a very polished show. I thought it was still very well put together. Yeah, there's some things I may have approached differently if I were in those shoes, but I still like the show overall. It's still one of the better ones that I've seen in the last few years. And I will say, there's one that y'all really sized up in the last few years that I did not think was good, but I ain't saying no names. Anyway, with that being said, I do want to close with this. Dominic Patton from Deadline, you really tried it with your review of this show. It was interesting. I was reading some of the reviews from the critics. And this is why I say sometimes people that claim to be music critics, I would rather you be a music critic if you actually appreciate all the genres and what everybody brings to the table. Some of y'all have your favorite artists and you measure other artists against your favorite artists. And then if they don't measure up to your standard, you got a problem with it. But the problem with this is he's a Swiftie. Nothing against Taylor Swift, but if we're going to talk about performances, you know, don't play in Usher's face. That's all I'm going to say. But it was interesting because that review mentioned Taylor Swift like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, what does she have to do with Usher's halftime show? Why must y'all center everything around this girl? Y'all know how to kill somebody's legacy, right? And for people who wanted to give the girl a chance, you just be turned off like, never mind, because y'all be trying to act like she's the second coming of everything. And so, yeah, the article had this bit where they're like, you know, even while they said Usher had fizzled, the performance fizzled, and even while he brought out all these great people in the audience were straining their necks to look up and see how Taylor was responding. I'm like, y'all love to rewrite history and just be up here lying just to fit a narrative, but whatever. We'll see what happens when it's Taylor's time. Anyway, share your 2 cents. Let me know what you thought. Did you like the performance? Are there some things that you would have done differently? Where do you kind of place it amongst your favorites or least favorites? And did you buy the album? And are you going to the tour? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, I'm out. Share your 2 cents. Subscribe.